Pixar, Disney's Pixar, was hit with layoffs on Tuesday as approximately 175 employees, or 14% of its workforce, were let go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, more consequences of Bob Iger and the rest of his ilk and everyone else in charge of entertainment at the Walt Disney Company. This is their fault. These 175 staffers, these 175 employees with families, mortgages, bills to pay, have now lost their jobs because Bob Iger and the rest of his board of directors, full of nothing more than yes men and women, we have to be inclusive after all, have decided to bet on ideology over good storytelling. And they have lost billions of dollars as a consequence to those actions. That being said, boys and girls, these 175 staffers, these 175 families that have now lost their jobs are solely at the feet of Bob Iger. Why? Because Bob Iger hired and allowed the infection of the ideology and the acolytes of the cult to permeate every corner of the Walt Disney Company, including Pixar. Bob Iger did this because at one point he thought he was going to run for president. And then his family told him flat out to get lost. That was an insane idea and they wanted no part of it. But it was too late. Bobby Boy had been padding his company full of people that thought just like him. And those people infected Pixar. And those people got rid of the one creative genius talent behind Pixar, all because some people felt uncomfortable that he was a hugger. Because he liked to give hugs. Never any reports of inappropriate hugs. Never any complaints filed with HR. Never any actual legal accusations put against him. No, it was just some accusations from insiders at Disney. Now, if I remember correctly, I believe his name is Lasseter, is now gone on to form another studio. And I wish him all the best success because that man is oozing with talent. And well, ladies and gentlemen, that is something that Disney no longer has. And unfortunately, 175 families whose breadwinner potentially worked at Pixar are now gone. So let's check this out from Variety.com. Smash that like button, subscribe and or follow if you have not already. We love you long time. Pixar was hit with layoffs on Tuesday as approximately 175 employees, or 14% of its workforce, were let go. In a note to staff, Pixar president Jim Morris said that individuals who have been impacted by the layoffs will be notified on Tuesday. Calendar invites to speak with a leader have already gone out to those individuals, and we anticipate we will have connected with everyone impacted by the end of the day. Pixar employees have been bracing for layoffs since January, but cuts were smaller than speculated, 20% reduction that was reported at the time. Once considered the gold standard of family films, Pixar has been struggling since the government lockdowns, when its corporate overlords at Disney used the pedigree of animation brand to prop up its new streaming service during that period with offerings Soul, Luca, and Turning Red were sent directly to Disney+. Oh, yes. It's streaming's fault that those movies didn't do well and that Pixar is currently in this alteration. Oh, yes, it's all the government lockdown's fault. It's all the government lockdown's fault. Has nothing to do with the agenda that all three of those movies were oozing with. Because if these movies really did so well, and it was the whole, oh, well, they just put it on streaming and people are just waiting on streaming and that's why they're not going to the theaters for it, then why weren't these movies smash hits on the Disney Plus streaming service? They weren't. I don't think any of them charted longer than a week if they charted at all. So yeah, take that excuse and shove it where the sun doesn't shine. We know why Pixar and the Walt Disney Company are in the state that it's in. Why did Lightyear fail? Because Lightyear, which marks Pixar's second consecutive misfire after the 2020s onward, well, I don't know. Let's talk about the marketing around Lightyear. It was LGBTQ plus alphabet soup to the nines. And then it turned out that that was just Disney gaslighting. Literally the only LGBTQ plus alphabet soup nonsense that was in that movie was a blink and you miss it kiss between the two moms of one of the main characters. It was so much gaslighting that the LA Times came out and wrote an article that said the movie was nothing more than LGBTQ alphabet soup bait. They literally said it was bait for LGBTQ plus people. And guess what else it was? Turned off all the families that didn't want to have to explain to little Johnny and Susie about Buzz Lightyear's best friend's two mommies. So I guess what, Disney? You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. Pixar has admitted these mistakes and have attempted to course correct them. Executives believe that the studio's upcoming sequel to Inside Out on June 4th will have the humor and charm to recapture the anime's company's luster. But Pixar's slate also includes Elio in 2025 and Toy Story 5. Toy Story 5 in 2026. Remakes and stuff that nobody cares about. Sequels and remakes and stuff nobody cares about. But this is what Variety and what the rest of the majority of the Hollywood access media, the acolytes of the cult, the proponents of the spirit of the age are not willing to admit that their ideology has failed. That the majority of Western civilization, and especially the majority of families out there, have rejected it. That's why Pixar fails. That's why 175 staffers and their families have now lost a significant portion, if not all, of their income. Because Bob Iger and the rest of his ilk over at the Walt Disney Company decided to double down on an ideology that the majority of Western civilization and the majority of America rejects and will continue to reject. And the Walt Disney Company may continue to double down and let them continue to bankrupt themselves, because eventually, either they will have to change their ways or someone else will buy up their IPs and start making good quality stories again. But until that day happens, enjoy suffering the consequences of your actions. Unfortunately, 175 families are going to suffer the consequences of those actions, Bob Iger. But that's okay, because your company is losing billions of dollars. And if those people actually have any talent, they will have no problem finding jobs in much better companies that actually remember to respect their customers, to respect their fans, and to overall put storytelling, good quality storytelling, above everything else, not agenda, which is what Bob Iger has done. And now it's more burn, Disney, burn. And now a lot of people have lost their jobs. Blame Bob Iger, not us.